location. The local described it as a magnificent wonder of nature, with an abundance of marine life and underwater caves waiting to be explored. As the group imagined themselves diving into the clear blue water of the crater, they felt a sense of excitement and apprehension. They had never attempted anything like this before, and the unknown dangers lurking beneath the surface added to the thrill. The idea of venturing into a crater formed by a volcano that had been active in the past made their hearts race. Whisk away to the hospital, knowing that he had narrowly escaped the jaws of death. But the emotional scars ran even deeper. Brent had faced his mortality in the most brutal way, and the trauma would stay with him for a lifetime. Out at the endless expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, the water stretched out before him, an endless churning mass of blue and green. The sun was just starting to dip below the horizon, surrounded by the tranquil beauty of the underwater world. The great white shark, named Kuro, gracefully glided through the water, its sleek body a picture of power and grace. Ayumi had developed a special bond with Kuro during her time at the research facility. She had spent countless hours observing and documenting Kuro's behavior, and had grown to respect and admire the creature's beauty and strength. But today, something was off. Kuro was behaving unusually, swimming faster than usual, and bumping into walls of the aquarium with force. Ayumi furrowed her brow in concern as she observed Kuro's erratic behavior. She had never seen Kuro act like this before, and it sent a shiver down her spine. She decided to wrap up her observation and started making her way towards the surface. But before she could reach the top, Kuro suddenly changed direction and started circling her, its large black eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. Ayumi's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the danger she was in. She tried to swim away from Kuro, but the shark was relentless in its pursuit. It circled closer and closer, its powerful body cutting through the water with alarming speed. Ayumi's mind raced as she desperately tried to come up with a plan to escape the shark's deadly jaws. Before Ayumi could react, it happened. In a heart-stopping moment, Kuro charged at her with astonishing speed, a blur of sleek muscle and razor-sharp teeth. Ayumi was caught off guard, unable to evade the massive predator in time. With a bone-crushing impact, Kuro slammed into her, pinning her against the unforgiving glass wall of the aquarium. Ayumi's head struck the glass, a sickening thud echoing through the air, and warm blood oozed down her face, mixing with a... The nets were being cleaned and mended, the hooks baited and sorted, and the engines checked for any signs of trouble. Mason was just about to start cleaning the deck when suddenly he felt a massive wave hit the ship. He was thrown off balance, stumbling backwards and tumbling over the railing. He hit the water with a splash, the shock of the cold water taking his breath away. The crew sprang into action, shouting out. With lightning speed, the predator lunged at Mason, its jaws gaping wide, rows of teeth gleaming with a primal hunger. Mason's heart pounded in his chest as he grasped the rope, feeling the rough fibers bite into his hands. But before he could pull himself to safety, the shark struck. Its razor shot out in agony as blood clouded the water around him. The crew shouted in horror, trying to haul Mason aboard as the shark refused to let go. The beast thrashed and shook its massive head, determined to drag Mason under the water. The fisherman's grip on the rope faltered, but he clung on with all his strength, fueled by sheer willpower and the adrenaline coursing through his veins. In a heart-stopping moment, the shark ripped Mason's leg clean off, leaving a gruesome trail of blood in its wake. Mason screamed in agony, a primal scream that brought shivers down the spine of all his crewmates, trying desperately to pull him out of the water. The scene was brutal. The mixture of flesh and blood swirling like a vortex on the churning water left by the shark that plummeted under the water, taking with it a piece of Mason's mangled limbs. The crew was frantically pulling on the rope, trying to save him from the jaws of the vicious predator, but the shark was relentless. From under the water, the shark emerged like a torpedo, and it attacked once more, this time latching onto his remaining leg. Mason screamed in agony as the shark ripped his leg off. He could feel his flesh ripping apart as his other leg was devoured by the frenzied creature in the water, but the damage was already done. Legs painted the sides of the ship, a grim reminder of the danger that lurked beneath the waves. Mason haunted by the memory of the shark that had changed his life forever. Tranquil waters. The idea of exploring the stunning coastline and indulging in water activities was enough to invigorate her, and that welcomed Melissa's family with open arms. The turquoise waters glimmered in the sunlight, and the white sandy beaches stretched for miles, inviting them to explore. The constant murmur of the waves crashing against the shore provided a soothing soundtrack to their adventures, while the soft sand tickled their toes. But beneath the idyllic scenery lay a world of danger, and it was only a matter of time before they would find themselves entangled in its grasp. As the sun began to set, Melissa and her family sat down at a beachside bar to enjoy a drink, and so vibrant colors of the coral reef below were mesmerizing, and the family couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder and awe at the otherworldly beauty before them. Schools of brightly colored fish swam around them, while majestic sea turtles used her underwater flashlight to shine a light on the shadows. Melissa was petrified to see a pack of tiger sharks stalking the murky waters. In a panic, Melissa swam to the surface and alerted her whole family. The family were in a frenzy, thrashing relentlessly with their efforts to reach the safety of the waiting boat. The chaos caught the attention of the sharks. The pack of sharks swam towards the commotion. Realizing that there's prey in the water, the predators went on a feeding frenzy. The rest of the family were almost upon the boat, but Melissa was not so lucky. In a matter of seconds, she was surrounded and circled around by a pack of hungry tiger sharks. Melissa could see the fins of 5 sharks circling around her. She tried to swim away as fast as she could, but the sharks were faster. Suddenly, one of the predators lunged at her, biting Melissa's left leg. Melissa screamed in agony as she felt the shark's razor-sharp teeth tear her flesh. The water around them was crimson red with Melissa's blood mixing with the salt water. The smell of the blood in the water crazed the other sharks, who were overcome with their primal instincts and hunger. The other sharks started attacking Melissa, who was helpless against the might of the predatory beast of the sea. As the first shark latched onto Melissa's leg, tossing her around like a rag doll in the water, one shark latched onto Melissa's arm. Suddenly, in a bone-crunching bite, both sharks bit off Melissa's limbs. Melissa couldn't even scream, as another shark bit off her head. The sharks continued their harrowing attack. Some sharks began ripping the other limbs, while one bit on Melissa's torso, dragging her mangled, lifeless body to the depths of the ocean. Melissa's family could only watch in horror as this pack of tiger sharks ripped her apart. Into a nightmare, a surreal and terrifying landscape of pain and terror. As the seconds ticked by, Clara's strength began to fade, and she knew that she was fighting a losing battle. But still, she fought on, determined to survive, to live another day, no matter what the cost. A trip around the island. The situation turned dire when the vessel's engine suddenly faltered, refusing to restart. Left stranded in the frigid waters near the island, Francis attempted to call for assistance, but was informed that it could be a considerable amount of time before a tugboat would arrive to aid him. With no means of propulsion and an uncertain wait ahead, he found himself in a precarious predicament. As Francis sat there waiting for the tugboat to rescue him and his stranded vessel, he couldn't help but feel restless. Something was nagging at him, like a persistent itch that he couldn't scratch. Suddenly, he remembered the acrid scent of smoke that had filled his nostrils earlier, emanating from the engine room. His curiosity piqued, he made his way to the aft of the boat, gingerly leaning over the edge of the deck to peer into the mechanical abyss below. It was then in that vulnerable position that fate decided to strike its cruel hand. Before Francis could react, a monstrous figure emerged from the depths of the frigid waters, surrounding the boat. It was a behemoth of the sea, a great white shark, with jaws wide open, and rows of serrated teeth glistening in the sunlight. With ferocious speed, it lunged at Francis, sinking its teeth into his shoulder with a bone-crushing force. A blood-curdling scream escaped Francis's lips as searing pain shot through his body. He felt as if his flesh was being torn apart, the shark's teeth slicing through his skin like a hot knife through butter. Blood poured out from the wound, mingling with the salty waters of the San Francisco Bay, staining the once calm surface a deep crimson. Francis thrashed and writhed, desperately trying to free himself from the jaws of the predator. But the shark's grip was relentless, its teeth sinking deeper into his shoulder with each thrash and pull. The excruciating pain was overwhelming, and Francis could feel his strength ebbing away, replaced by a numbing sensation as blood loss took its toll. As the water closed in around him, Francis realized he was in a fight for his life. He tried to fend off the shark with his free hand, desperately striking its sleek body, but it seemed impervious to his feeble attempts. The shark's thrashing movements only served to drag Francis further away from the safety of the boat, deeper into the icy waters of the bay. Francis felt a sense of hope devoured by the primal predators of the sea. She submerged herself in the crystal-clear waters of Ningaloo Reef, Australia. Her wetsuit hugged her body tightly, making her feel as if she was part of the ocean herself. With her hair floating around her, she swam with effortless elegance through the vibrant blue world that surrounded her. Her eyes shone with excitement as she took in the breathtaking scenery that lay beneath her. She had spent countless hours studying the intricate ecosystem of the reef, from the colorful coral to the dazzling schools of fish that swam by. And as she explored this mesmerizing underwater wonderland once again, she was filled with awe at the intricate balance of life that existed there. Each time she plunged into the depths of the reef, Mary felt like she was stepping into a magical realm, where the beauty and harmony of nature never ceased to amaze her. Ningaloo Reef was a coral paradise, with its stunning array of corals in all shapes and sizes, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that seemed almost otherworldly. Mary had dedicated her life to understanding these complex ecosystems and their inhabitants, teeming with a colorful array of life that awaited their discovery. Oslob was a small fishing village located on the southeastern coast of Cebu. It was a place of tranquil beauty, with the sparkling blue waters of the Bohol Sea stretching out as far as the eye could see. The village was nestled among verdant hills, with wide sandy beaches that were fringed by palm trees. The locals were friendly and welcoming, and the pace of life was slow and unhurried. It was a place of simple pleasures, where the sound of the waves and the scent of the sea air were enough to make Juan feel content. One warm afternoon, Juan was exploring the shallow waters, diving for pearls in its favorite spot. The sun danced on the surface, casting a mesmerizing play of light as Juan scanned the sandy seabed. As he reached out to pick up a particularly gleaming pearl, something caught his eye in his peripheral vision. With a sudden burst of speed, a massive figure was closing in on him. Juan's heart skipped a beat as he realized it was a bull shark, known for its aggressive nature and sharp teeth. Panic surged through him as he tried to swim away, but the shark was faster, closing the distance in a matter of seconds. Before Juan could react, the shark lunged at him, its jaws snapping shut around his arm. The pain was searing as the shark's razor-sharp teeth sank into his flesh, drawing blood that mixed with the surrounding waters. Juan's mind raced as he struggled to break free, but the shark's grip was relentless. With a sickening crunch, the shark bit off Juan's arm, leaving him stunned and bleeding in the water. The once crystal-clear sea turned crimson as blood billowed around him, clouding his vision. As the shark swam away with Juan's arm in his jaws, Juan was left stunned and reeling in shock. The pain was excruciating, and panic surged through him as he realized the severity of his injuries. With a sheer force of salt water, the metallic scent of blood seemed to trigger a primal instinct in Kuro, as the once graceful shark now transformed into a frenzied beast. Thrashing violently in the water, jaws snapping dangerously close, Kuro's eyes were filled with a predatory's madness as Ayumi found herself trapped and at the mercy of a creature she had spent her life studying. Desperation surged through Ayumi as she realized the gravity of her situation. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she kicked and thrashed, desperately trying to free herself from Kuro's jaws. But the shark's immense power was overwhelming. She felt the sharp pain of teeth sinking into her flesh, tearing her limbs apart one by one. Blood clouded the water around her, staining it a murky red, as Kuro tore into her with savage ferocity. Ayumi's screams were muffled by the water, her frantic movements fueled by sheer survival instinct. She fought with every ounce of strength she had left, her body writhing in agony as she refused to succumb to the relentless assault of the creature she had once studied, determined to cling to life until her very last breath. Amidst the chaos, One of the researchers caught wind of the commotion and immediately alerted the rest of the team. A rescue crew scrambled to the scene, but what they encountered left them paralyzed with shock. A ghastly scene before them was one of sheer horror. Ayumi's lifeless body bobbing in the water, her eyes frozen in a look of terror. Kuro was still in a frenzy, thrashing wildly and ripping chunks of flesh from Ayumi's body with a ferocity that defied belief. With a burst of speed, the shark launched itself out of the water and in one fluid motion devoured Ayumi's mangled remains in a gruesome display of savagery. The crew watched in disbelief and horror as the water swirled in a vortex of water, flesh, and blood. And just like that, Kuro disappeared into the depths, dragging Ayumi's tattered corpse behind it. Blood-curdling scream escaped Clara's lips as the jaws of the bull shark clamped down on her leg, its teeth sinking deeper into her flesh with every passing second. The pain was unbearable, a searing agony that consumed her entire being. She felt as though she was being torn apart, her body racked with spasms of pain. But even as the shark thrashed around, trying to drag her deeper into the water, Clara felt a strong hand grab her and pull her away. It was George, reacting with lightning speed, his muscles bulging with the effort of hauling her to safety. His grip was iron, his determination unshakable, as he battled against the brute force of the shark. The ocean was in turmoil as the predator and prey battled fiercely in a maelstrom of foam and bubbles. The deafening sound of waves crashing was overshadowed by the thrashing of the shark's tail as it relentlessly pursued Clara and George. Clara felt the rough, abrasive texture of the shark's skin scrape against her leg, sending shivers of terror down her spine. The jaws of the monstrous creature clamped down with a force that threatened to break her bones as she felt the warmth of her own blood spilling into the water. As Clara's vision began to blur and her strength started to wane, she thought it was the end. But then, she felt George's grip tighten around her and his muscles tensed with a sudden burst of energy. He pulled her away from the jaws of death, and they hurtled towards the surface, as if escaping from the depths of hell itself. Gasping for air, Claire broke through the surface, her chest heaving as she gulped in a great lungful of salty air. She looked around frantically, expecting to see the shark's fin, closing in on them at any moment. But to her relief, there was only the sun-drenched sky and the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. It was a narrow escape, but they had survived. And as they lay on the sand, exhausted and shaken, Clara knew that she owed her life to George's bravery and quick thinking. Clara and George had narrowly escaped with their lives, but the terror of the attack would haunt them forever. Hammerheads, tiger sharks, and more. But when they got the call about a series of shark attacks in Volusia County, Florida, they knew that this was going to be their toughest assignment yet. 5 people had been injured and maimed, and 1 person was still missing. In the midst of their vigilant patrol, the crew was caught off guard when a colossal creature forcefully collided with their boat, jolting everyone on board. Tony, one of the seasoned crew members, was caught off balance and was inadvertently knocked overboard, plunging into the water below. As the crew frantically rushed to Tony's aid, their hearts pounded with fear and urgency. They scanned the waters for any sign of Tony's whereabouts, but before they could react, a 20-foot great white shark emerged from beneath the surface with lightning speed. With jaws wide open, the shark lunged at Tony, clamping its razor-sharp teeth onto his body. The crew's worst fears became a horrifying reality as Tony was dragged under the water by the powerful shark. The surface of the water turned crimson with blood, a stark and chilling reminder of the perilous situation. The crew's hearts pounded with fear as they watched their comrade Tony struggle in the jaws of the great white shark. Without a moment's hesitation, Harvey and the other crew members sprang into action, diving into the water and racing to Tony's rescue. The water was murky, and the shark's movements were unpredictable, making the situation all the more dangerous. As they drew closer, they could hear Tony's desperate thrashing as he fought for his life. Harvey and the crew felt a mix of emotions, fear, determination, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility to protect their friend. Adrenaline was pumping through their veins as they approached the terrifying predator, changed them forever. They knew that they had to respect the power of these creatures and work to protect both humans and sharks alike. It was a lesson they would never. For a moment, they thought it was a friendly marine animal like a dolphin or whale, but the relief turned into sheer terror when they realized that it was an oceanic white-tip shark, a predator renowned for its aggression and fearlessness. This was not just any shark, but a killing machine that could detect blood from miles away and could swim at incredible speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. Its sharp serrated teeth were designed to rip flesh and crush bones with ease, and its dark, lifeless eyes conveyed a cold, unfeeling hunger for flesh. As the shark closed in on Mason, its movements became more erratic and frenzied, and its large, muscular body seemed to dwarf the helpless fisherman. The water around it churned and frothed with an unsettling energy as the shark prepared to attack. The crew members felt a wave of panic wash over them as they realized that they were facing off against one of the most dangerous predators in the ocean. Mason fought to stay above the water, his muscles burning from the effort as he kicked and thrashed to keep the shark at bay. The oceanic white tip circled him, its dark, lifeless eyes fixed on its prey with a chilling intensity. Its sleek body moved with sinuous grace, closing in on Mason with each pass, its sharp teeth glinting in the sunlight. Desperate to save her as she fought for her life, but the shark was relentless. With one loud crunch, the shark bit off Mary's leg, leaving her defenseless and fading fast. She felt the pain and despair wash over her as she struggled to stay conscious. The shark circled her once more before it lunged at her, this time going for her neck and head. Mary felt the unbearable pain as her flesh ripped apart, and then everything went dark. Days passed, and reports of Mary's disappearance surfaced. The authorities searched the area, but no body was found. The news assumed that she was devoured by sharks frequenting the area. Mary's family was devastated by the news, and they mourned her loss. The incident served as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the waters, even in the most beautiful of places. Mary's legacy lived on, and her research continued to inspire generations of marine biologists. Still, he managed to swim towards the surface, his remaining arm propelling him through the water. Just as Juan reached the surface, he gasped for air and looked around, hoping for a way out of this nightmare. But his heart sank as he noticed a massive fin in the distance, cutting through the water with menacing speed. His worst fears were coming true. The shark was coming back for him. With a growing sense of dread, Juan tried to swim away as fast as he could, but he knew it was futile. He was injured, bleeding, and vulnerable. The shark could smell his blood and was closing in fast. Juan knew what was about to happen, but he just couldn't do anything. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through his left leg, and he let out a piercing scream. His scream echoed across the water, a call for help that went unanswered. The massive shark continued to sink its teeth deeper into Juan's flesh, but he refused to give up. He fought with all his might, summoning every ounce of strength and willpower that he had left. Juan kicked, punched, and thrashed about in a desperate attempt to free himself from the shark's grip. The pain was unbearable, but Juan refused to let the shark be the end of him. As the shark relentlessly attacked Juan, a sense of doom set in. He wondered if this is how it was going to end, his lifeless body sinking to the bottom of the ocean, consumed by a predator. But the will to survive coursed through Juan's veins, fueling him to keep fighting. He could feel the rush of adrenaline pulsing through his body, giving him a temporary boost of strength. Despite his valiant efforts, Juan's screams for help went unheard. He was on his own, or so he thought. In a stroke of its massive jaws gaping open, ready to strike, Harvey, undeterred, jabbed at the shark repeatedly, aiming for its sensitive nose. The shark thrashed and writhed, lashing out at Harvey with its razor-sharp teeth, but Harvey was relentless, continuing to stab the shark until it finally succumbed to its injuries and went limp. The crew watched in awe as the once terrifying predator floated lifelessly in the water, defeated by their courage and skill. With the shark no longer a threat, the crew turned their attention to Tony, who was battered and bruised, but alive. They pulled him to safety, relieved and grateful that they had been able to rescue him from the jaws of death. But Harvey and his crew knew their work was not done yet. They needed to understand why this particular shark had been attacking beachgoers, and if it had done so before. With determination in their eyes, the crew hauled the lifeless shark onto the beach, its massive body leaving a trail in the sand. They began to examine the shark, carefully slicing it open to reveal its insides. As they made their way through the layers of skin and muscle, a putrid smell emanated from the belly of the beast. Without warning, a concoction of viscous fluid spilled forth from the shark's stomach, causing the crew to recoil in shock and disgust as the decapitated head of the missing person rolled out into the sand. The realization that the man's body had been consumed by the enormous predator left the crew stunned and appalled. Recognizing the significance of this discovery, the team knew they had to press on with their examination, aware that there could be further clues lurking within the shark's belly. With steady hands and a sense of grim determination, Harvey and his crew continued the examination. They retrieved other body parts of humans from the shark's stomach, confirming their worst fears that this particular shark had been responsible for the recent attacks on beachgoers. He grabbed his spear gun and dove into the water, ready to face the rampaging bull shark. The local, using all his skills and experience, aimed his spear gun at the shark's eyes and snout. The shock and pain of the hit made the shark swim away, releasing Juan from his grip. Juan, now half alive and sinking in the water, was still in danger, but he wasn't alone anymore. Without hesitation, the local swam across the water to retrieve Juan. Together, they emerged from the water, shaken but alive, their lives forever linked by this harrowing experience. Heart racing with the knowledge that her life was in mortal danger. The tiger shark surged towards Mary with astonishing speed, its massive jaws opening wide, revealing row upon row of razor-sharp teeth. She reacted with lightning reflexes, slashing at the shark with her knife, aiming for its sides in a desperate attempt to fend off the imminent attack. But the predator seemed relentless, undeterred by her efforts. Its powerful muscles propelled it forward, and in a split second, Mary felt searing pain as the shark's jaws closed around her right arm. She screamed, her mind reeling in shock as she watched in horror as her limb was torn off in a brutal bone-crunching snap. Blood clouded the water, and Mary's body convulsed in agony as she struggled to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before her. Mary's mind raced as she fought to stay calm. She knew she had to get to the surface and get help, but the shark was relentless. It circled her, its cold eyes fixed on her remaining limbs. With all her strength, Mary tried to swim towards the surface, but the shark was faster. It lunged at her, latching on to one of her legs. Mary kicked with all her might, using her free leg to try and fend off the shark, but it was too powerful. It thrashed and ragdolled her under the water, the surrounding water turning dark red with her blood and pieces of flesh from the brutal attack. Mary's screams were muffled by the waterlessness creeping over him. His body grew weak, and his vision blurred. He knew he was running out of time. But then, a surge of determination coursed through him, fueled by a primal instinct to survive. Summoning every ounce of strength he had, Francis reached out with his free hand and groped for the shark's eye. With a primal roar of pain and determination, Francis mustered every bit of strength he had to hold on to the shark's eye, feeling its squirming body thrash and writhe in agony beneath him. His grip was unrelenting, his fingers digging into the soft flesh of the predator's eye as he clung to life with every fiber of his being. The shark, shocked by the sudden attack, momentarily let go of Francis's shoulder, giving him the chance he needed to pull himself away from its razor-sharp teeth. Francis felt a searing pain rip through his flesh as he tore himself free, his shoulder and arm mangled beyond recognition. But he refused to give up even as the water around him turned crimson with his own blood. He knew that his only chance of survival was to fight back with everything he had. With a primal scream of defiance, Francis kicked the shark's nose with all his might, feeling the force of the impact reverberate through his entire body. The shark, stunned and in pain, swam away in a sudden burst of speed, disappearing into the murky depths. Francis was left floating in the water, bleeding and battered, but alive. He knew he couldn't make it back to the boat on his own, but he refused to give up. With a flicker of hope, he looked towards the horizon, desperately scanning for any signs of rescue. And then, like a beacon of hope, a tugboat appeared on the horizon, rushing towards him. It was the backup he had called for earlier. Francis felt a surge of relief and gratitude as he was of nature's predators. Crystal clear waters that housed the awe-inspiring great white shark she had been observing for more than a year. Ocean and its creatures was infectious, and she had a deep sense of responsibility to protect and preserve these fragile ecosystems for future generations. As Mary descended further into the depths of the reef, she marveled at the sheer size of some of the coral formations. They were unlike anything she'd ever seen before, and she eagerly began documenting her findings. She swam gracefully, her movements fluid and precise, as she observed the intricate symbiotic relationships between the corals and the myriad of marine life that called this reef home. As Mary focused her gaze on the majestic coral formation, a sense of calm and wonder enveloped her. She marveled at its intricate patterns and vivid colors, feeling like she'd uncovered a hidden treasure in the depths of the sea. But then something changed. A prickling sensation crawled up her spine, making her turn around abruptly. Her eyes widened in horror as she spotted a massive, ominous figure emerging from the shadows. Its body was massive, its movements deliberate and calculated. Mary's heart raced as she realized that she was face to face with one of the ocean's greatest predators. The creature's cold, unblinking eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, Mary was frozen with fear. As Mary's eyes adjusted to the shadowy figure, a wave of fear washed over her. Her heart pounded in her chest as she recognized the unmistakable shape of a 13-foot tiger shark, a predator that could easily overpower her with its muscular body and razor-sharp teeth. The water around her seemed to grow colder as the shark circled her, its menacing gaze never leaving her vulnerable form. Mary's muscles tensed as she remembered her extensive training, knowing that every second counted in this deadly game of survival. With trembling hands, she reached for the knife strapped to her thigh, her fingers fumbling for a moment before finally closing around the hilt. She held the weapon tightly, ready to strike at a moment's notice, her eyes scanning the dark waters for any signs of the shark's next move. The tension was palpable as she waited for the inevitable attack. Her heart stood in awe at the edge of the colossal aquarium, her eyes fixated on the cutting-edge facility built to study and unravel the mysteries of these formidable apex predators. Her colleagues were haunted by the gruesome image of her body being torn apart by the very creature she had devoted her life to studying. A reminder of the savage nature of these apex predators.